My name is Barbara and I'm a Sustainability Education Officer for Willoughby Council. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that wherever we are today, we are all on the lands of Aboriginal traditional owners, and I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, both past, present and emerging, and thank them for sharing with us their immense knowledge on how to care for this country. We are hosting this webinar tonight in partnership with Mosman Council. So we have Loani, Mosman Council's Environment Officer, and Paloma, who is Mosman Council's Environment Coordinator, online as well tonight. And as our residents are already probably aware, both Willoughby City Council and Mosman Council are dedicated to caring and protecting our environment, and that as part of that include helping our community live more sustainably and reduce the carbon emissions. So for tonight's session, we've partnered with Zero Emission Solutions that will be running a great presentation for us. We're very happy to be partnering with them. They're a New South Wales incorporated non-for-profit that provides free solar and electrification info session and events. They have been working with various local councils for many years, so we know that we can trust what they're talking about. We will have a 45-minute presentation that will be followed afterwards by a Q&A. So you're welcome to stick around for the Q&A if you have any burning questions. Please pop them in the Q&A section on Zoom throughout the presentation, and we'll get to them at the end. So tonight from Zero Emission Solutions, we have 3 experienced solar and electrification educators that I'm very excited to hear from. We have Felicity Stevens, who is a sustainable holiday homeowner and advocate. We have Ursula Crowley, a lawyer, and Chris Lee, an engineer. So I will be asking them all your questions at the end. And in the meantime, I will just hand over to them.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Loani and Paloma, and we're so glad to be here. Thank you, everyone who's joined us. We're independent volunteers. We absolutely love helping you get solar and a battery. And tonight, what we're going to cover is the new federal Cheaper Home Batteries program and rebate. Why would you install a battery? How do solar and batteries actually work? And how much should you get? What size? How much can you save each year? How much is this going to cost you? And how Willoughby Council's solar and battery bulk buy can help you. And then we end with the specific next steps to get solar and or a battery, depending on what you're looking for. And then we have optional Q&A. Thank you very much. Oh, importantly, you will all receive these slides by email. So everything you see, everything we go through tonight, you'll receive by email. And there's also a recording that you'll receive.
Barbara, thank you for that beautiful welcome. As Barbara mentioned, we are Chris, Ursula and Felicity. We are a local team who are part of the Zero Emissions Solutions Group. We focus on helping locals electrify their homes. We provided over 120 free events in the last 5 years and helped many homes to put solar and batteries into them. We run these events with local councils like your council that you found out about us through today, and local MPs and other local groups. And why do we do this? We do this because we want to share the benefits with you about electrification and the potential savings that you might like to have in your home. So before we get started, and what we'd really like to know is, who are you? Are you a home that is looking for rooftop solar advice and or possibly looking for a battery? If you're interested in both, please let us know. And if you could just jot that down in the chat so we could get a bit more of a feel. Here's a poll. That would be great. Then we'd also love to know if you've already got solar and battery and you're here to help your friends understand a little bit more. Regardless, if you can just pop that in, that would be great.
And Barbara, do you want to let us know what people said? Excellent. So we have almost half of us don't have solar or a battery and are interested in one or both. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Half have solar and are interested in getting a battery, and then a few people already have solar and a battery and want to help family and friends. We're going to go through information that helps all of those people. So thank you so much for letting us know what you want.
So, what are the main concepts of an electric home? Well, there's some wonderful concepts here. Once we've got our rooftop solar installed and we've got a battery installed, there are going to be so many benefits that you can draw down from these, no pun intended. But along the way, if these are not top of your priority and there are other things that you need to do to electrify your home, you will see benefits from electrifying them immediately. So some of these might include adding a hot water heat pump, upgrading yourself from an old gas one or perhaps an old electric one to a much more energy efficient one. You may be looking at buying an EV and thinking, how am I going to run this and how am I going to charge this? And wouldn't it be nice if I could just come home, plug in and know that I'm charging my car for free or for my own rooftop solar or my battery? You might also be considering home induction cooking, which is another great way to soak up that energy that you're generating from your rooftop solar and save some money. And also adding reverse cycle air conditioning, which has the benefit of not only cooling your home, but heating your home in a really energy efficient way. And all of these things we can do with or without solar. But once we do have that solar and battery, it means that we're drawing down that power that we generate and we're not drawing down from the grid. So lots of great benefits.
We're going to talk about the new exciting battery rebate, which is front of people's minds and also lots of information in the media. But throughout this presentation, we will go through solar and a battery, because obviously nearly half the people are interested in solar as well as a battery. So the Federal Cheaper Home Batteries Program is this superb rebate. Big picture, you might have heard people saying, oh, is a battery worth it or not? In summary, the answer to that question with the rebate is yes, a battery is definitely worth it, and we'll explain why. So right now in 2025, it's about a 30% discount on the cost of installing a battery. So a battery that would have been around 10,000 is now going to cost you around 7,000. It's calculated using the STCs, so the rebate, the specifics are that it's $372 per kilowatt hour rebate. The rebate will go down slightly each year until 2030 and then it ends. So we thoroughly recommend, if you're interested in a battery, and we'll hopefully go through enough information and the steps that you get onto it straight away, to be installing this year or early next year. These are for batteries if you're installing solar and a battery new, or these are if you've already got solar and you're installing a battery afterwards. How do you get your discount? Just through your accredited installer, retailer. And an extra benefit, in case you're someone that can't get one for some reason, but it's really nice to know this, everyone that does have a battery is effectively lowering the costs of electricity for everyone, because everyone that has a battery is using their own power in the evening where there's peak demand, and so there's less total demand in the evening. So everyone who has a battery should be helping to lower the price of electricity in that peak evening time for everyone else. So thank you very much. And for further information, this slide pack comes with links you can click when you get it. So any links you see in this slide pack, you'll be able to click on afterwards if you'd like more information. So the rebate continues, reduces each year till 2030. There it is in graphical form. About 1,500 off for a 5 kilowatt system, 2,000 for 6.6, 3,500 for a 10 kilowatt. Sorry, this is for solar. Yeah, so the battery rebate is 30% right now. The solar panels rebate is 25% now. Both of those are reducing a bit each year. And when your solar installer quotes you, you'll see the total price and you'll see the price you pay, and you only have to pay the lower price. So when you combine the solar rebate and the battery rebate, these are just fantastic rebates. Now we're going to go through why install a battery. and we're also going to go through information about solar. Over to Chris.
Good. Yes, good evening, everyone. We get on to as an engineer, this is where I get quite excited about the technology and the technicalities of both solar and batteries. Just starting fairly briefly with why install a battery. And this first slide shows the graph of throughout the day. The blue and the green is consumption. The yellow sort of in the middle is solar generation. And this is actually a specific day in winter for a particular installation before there was a battery. And you can see it was a full Sunday, a full sunny day by the smooth curve in the middle. What it illustrates is, on the one hand, the consumption, there's a bit of consumption there just before the sun comes up when putting on the breakfast and the kettle. The green is during the day, cooking, and in fact there's a heat pump hot water there in the middle. And then the blue at the end there is in the evening. And you can see here that only a small proportion, about 30%, I think in this case, 30% of the solar is used in the household during the day. And then when the most consumption for the house happens in the evening, the solar's finished and power's being imported. And the net cost of all that on this particular illustration was nearly $4 a day, with 70% of the solar being exported, and then in the evening 60% of consumption being imported at the peak price. And we look at what the battery will do or has done. It takes that surplus during the day and makes it available in the evening. So you're using a lot more of your own solar, exporting a little bit during the day in this particular case, and then using your own power in the evening and not importing any power from the grid. So the main benefit, and it's all pretty obvious this, but the main benefit of a battery is you can store your own solar generated during the day and use it during the evening. And that's where most of the value for most people comes from. And in this case, you can see this could estimate it to be saving about $1,300 a year. Yeah, that's good. Let's go on to the next one. So that's the financial reason to install a battery. And with the rebate, as Ursula has said, it is actually very, very good value now with a relatively short payback time. But the other reason is that this is a really important thing to do to help the grid decarbonise. And I hope this picture is not too complicated. What it's showing is during the day on the national electricity market, the yellow in the middle is rooftop solar and large-scale solar. And the important bits are the black and the brown at the bottom there, showing that they peak in the evening, where the red circle is on the right there. And the point of this is, if we need all that power in the evening at the peak time, those coal stations can only turn down a certain amount during the day. And then on average, it's about 50%. Some of them could go down to 20%. But by having a high evening peak, we not only burn coal in the evening, we force it to continue to burn during the day as well. And at the moment, that displaces the solar and wind power. So if you get a battery, you reduce the peak in the evening, you save coal both then and during the day. And that's why there's such an emphasis on peak demand reduction. Right. Let's go one more. Yeah. So going back to the picture that Felicity used, we're going to now pick on a few of those elements: the PV panels, the inverter, and the home battery, and we'll just touch on electric car vehicle to grid, and also the connection to the grid through virtual power plants. The smart meter there won't go into. You need a smart meter which measures the electricity flowing into or out of the house, and is obviously critical to controlling the system and being paid accordingly. So let's go on. We'll fairly quickly go over solar panels here. Message really with solar panels is don't get hung up about it. All solar panels now available in Australia are basically good panels. They're remarkably durable. They're pretty consistently priced. There's really the sort of run-of-the-mill good panels at one level of price, and there's a few with some particular features which cost more. The key points, just going down there from basically when you get a few quotes, you'll get offered panels by the installer, which will be the panels that they regularly use. The warranties now, product and performance, are pretty standard. There's not much difference. Panel efficiency, if you can really dig into it, you can find some will be 22%, some might be 23%, but it's pretty marginal. The shape and the size are now pretty consistent to about 2 square meters for each panel, just over 1 meter and just under 2 meters in each direction. And for some people, the origin, the country where the panels are made may be important. The vast majority are made in China. One particular brand is made in Australia, if you want to pay extra for that. And there's another which is made in Singapore. But if we just click on to the next one. This is this picture came from the Solar Quotes website, and probably most people on this call will know about this website. It's a really good one for information, and they do quite a lot of comparisons on different products. This little graph shows, if you look on the left-hand side there, ACO panels at the top, down there to TW Solar at the bottom. These are all good, reasonably priced panels. JA Solar, Jinko, Longi, Trina, ACO is particularly popular at the moment. And if you look across to the slide to the right, you see the REC, for instance, and Tindo. Tindo is the one that's made in Australia, quite a lot more expensive. REC, probably 30% more expensive, made in Singapore. Some installers say if you're near the sea and you're getting salt spray, REC are slightly better in corrosion resistance. But pretty much all these panels have a corrosion, a salt spray rating anyway. So the basic message is, if you feel strongly, you can pay quite a bit extra, up to 30% for a particular panel, but in general, they all perform well, and don't get hung up about it. Okay, right. The next bit is the inverter, and this does involve a bit more choice and options. 3 basic types: a string inverter, the one at the top there, where the panels go one to the other in a continuous string. The current flows through each panel, that's the same current through each panel, and each panel increases the voltage depending how much sun's on that panel. And the inverter there at the end converts the direct current, which can be up to 600 volts and even 1,000 volts now with the latest inverters, depending on how many panels you have in the string, and converts it to around 230 volts alternating current to match the immediate grid voltage and grid frequency and feed into your house. And common names, Fronius and Sungrow, 2 big manufacturers of string inverters. And they're the basic economic way to operate, and says they're good for shades without any shade, on particularly roofs with only up to 2, possibly 3 different aspects in terms of slope and direction. If you look down the bottom, and the main alternative to a string inverter is a microinverter, and there's only one make of those available in Australia, which is N-phase. And the difference here is the inverter, a little inverter is on every panel. So each panel is managed and inverted, the current from it is inverted to 230 volts at the panel, and then feeds into one common string at 230 volts. And this means you're completely flexible in terms of how many slopes and directions you have your panels. And arguably, it's better if you've got shade effect on your roof. And can we just pop back in the middle there, optimizers. And this is a bit of a mixture. It's still a string system. The main supplier is Solar Edge. So you have a Solar Edge string inverter, but each panel has a little gadget on it called an optimizer, which optimizes the power coming out of that panel. And if that panel is in shade completely, or if it breaks, it bypasses the panel, so there's no effect on the rest of the system. Whereas, just referring back to the string inverter, if one panel actually breaks, it'll likely stop the current, the power coming through the whole string. Just to mention, modern panels have a thing called a multiple bypass diodes on them. So if one panel has a problem, or part of a panel has a problem, or is affected by shade, actually the current can bypass that panel, and a string system often performs pretty well in shading conditions as well. Okay, so we've done panels, we've done inverters, now to what most people are interested in tonight, which is batteries. We'll just go through some of the basic choices and differences between batteries. The first issue, the first choice and difference is a battery, a house battery, can be either what's called AC coupled or DC coupled. This means, if you see the little diagram there, an AC coupled battery is connected into the system after the power from the panels has gone through an inverter and converted to alternating current. If it's DC coupled, the battery connects on the panel side of the inverter. And the difference is, as you can see in the little diagram, if it's on the alternating current side, the battery has its own inverter, and the performance then of the battery is slightly less efficient because of the electricity being switched from direct current to alternating current more than once. If it's DC coupled on the right, the battery doesn't need an inverter. It uses a hybrid inverter at the top there. So you've only got one inverter, it's a bit cheaper, and you get slightly better performance. So difference, if you've already got solar panels, and I think half the people said they'd already got solar panels, you've got if you use an AC coupled battery, you just plonk it on the AC side of your existing system. But if you're starting from scratch, there are advantages, both economic and in performance, of being DC coupled. Right, let's go on to the next. Right. That said, there are two basic choices between what I've called their fixed size battery and modular or stackable battery. Probably a better description is big chunks at the top and smaller chunks at the bottom. The fixed size ones, as described there, the Tesla Powerwall, Solar Edge, Alpha ESS are three examples. They come in standard sizes of quite large. So the Tesla Powerwall, 13.5 kilowatt hours, which has been the sort of what most people installed until recently, one of those. Solar Edge, they're a little bit smaller, nominally 10 kilowatt hours, and the Alpha ESS similar size. So if you go with one of those batteries, you can still have more than one. Tesla, you can have, I think, 2. Solar Edge, you can have 3. But they're big self-contained battery units, and you just have them like 3 in a row. The ones at the bottom there, it's called the modular stackable. They come in basically small chunks, which makes it considerably easier to adjust the size initially and add capacity later on. And in many ways, they really have, there's a lot of attraction of being able to do that. With the current federal battery rebate, which you can only claim once, people are tending to go for bigger installations at the beginning, but it's still really good to be able to add on additional storage later if you find you need it or your needs change. And there's 3 really well-known ones. SunGrow, really well-established battery, which comes in quite small modules, 3.2 kilowatt hours. Sig Energy, a new and very popular brand now, comes in 5 and 8 kilowatt chunks. And BYD, another huge company, in quite small units. They're just under 3 kilowatt hours each. Okay, now, I'm just going to, let's just start. I just want to illustrate the advantage of a stackable battery. So this is an illustration used of a Sig Energy battery being installed. So the first thing that's being done there, they installed and precisely level the base frame. It's got to be really level because this thing then gets quite tall. So then you just come along to there, and here's a couple of installers. These modules are about 50 to 60, I think, just over 50 kilos, so they're pretty heavy. So here these 2 blokes would come along, just put the first module down. That's 8 kilowatt hours of storage. Next one, they've just gone and opened the box, got the next one, and they'll just put that literally layered on top, and the 2 connect together automatically through the connections on the right-hand side there. Then they got another one, so that was at 16 kilowatt hours. Now they're putting another 8 on it. That's 24 kilowatt hours. And then another one, and that's 32 kilowatt hours of storage. I mean, that's more than 2.5 Tesla batteries, 3 times 10 kilowatt hour battery, which most people were installing until recently. And then on top of that goes the inverter, which is that little thing with the circle on it. So you've got there 4 battery units, 32 kilowatt hours, and the inverter on the top, 10 kilowatt inverter, so pretty strong. And that's a hybrid inverter, so that can connect straight to the string of panels. And in this particular one, it's got 4 connections for 4 strings of panels. So that gives you an ability to have panels in different directions. Okay, now there'll be, I suspect, a bit of interest in vehicle to grid, which has been talked about for a couple of years, and we've all been waiting for it to become readily accessible so that you can use your EV as storage connected to your house and potentially sell the electricity from your EV battery back into the grid. So in other words, your electric vehicle just becomes an intricate part of your home electricity system and a big battery. Now, it pretty well exists now. National standards were established fairly recently. I think it was just the end of last year. So that's done. There are approved chargers. There are a couple of approved chargers, the wall box, which has been around for some time, and the most recent is Sig Energy battery. So that battery that you saw in the last picture, I'm now just shown there with the DC, direct current EV charging unit inserted into it. And this costs about $5,000, but it then gives the ability to charge and discharge your car direct current up to 25 kilowatts, which is pretty powerful. So there are already a couple of chargers and there will be more available. Are electric vehicles capable? Well, actually, most of them are fundamentally capable. It's a question of whether they're being promoted by the manufacturer. And the point at the bottom there may be a warranty issue, which is still being sorted out by manufacturers. But from what I understand from the speaker at the Australian EV Association, he says actually most cars you could stick a DC vehicle to grid connection into it and it'll work. So it's very close to being generally available. Message is it'll be very valuable storage, but it'll be best working with home batteries and not instead of. So don't delay installing your home battery waiting for this. Just fit it in later. And the other sort of related point, which is probably good to touch on, is virtual power plants and should we join. A virtual power plant is the mechanism by which you connect your house and its resources, particularly the battery, to the grid. And it's essential for accelerating the transition. It means your solar and your battery and hopefully soon your electric vehicle can import from and export to the grid to help balance supply and demand. And there are two basic choices here. The majority pay for control. In other words, they pay you a certain amount each month or when they use your battery, and they take the benefits and the risk. And the big gentailers offer these in with different, slightly different terms and conditions. The alternative is fee for service, where you pay them a monthly fee for the means for you to operate your resources optimally and connect to the grid, and you keep most of the risk and the rewards. And there's only one at the moment really, which is Amber. So it's good to join a VPP, but do your homework, check that you're getting what's best for you. And I think this is my last, isn't it? The choice of battery. This again comes from Solar Quote's website. And this is what installers say they would install in their own houses if they had the choice and had to pay for it themselves. That there are now more batteries than this available. You can see the old Tesla coming up, very popular. SunGrow, been around a long time, very popular. And now Sig Energy, this new one, in fact probably has overtaken those two in popularity and installation. Plus BYD, I mean, all these are good batteries, but some are slightly better than others. Okay, how are we doing for time? We're doing all right. Shall I do this one? Yeah. So the next question, how much should you get? How much in terms of panels and how much in terms of storage for your battery? I mean, these are good rebates you're getting now, which are reducing each year. So and the battery one you can only get once. So there's a bit of incentive to go slightly bigger. Main thing to consider is your demand during the year and what your system's going to supply. The point is, in winter, as illustrated here on the top, your demand is probably going to be at its highest, because that's when, if you've got an all-electric house, you're using your electric reverse cycle heating. And on the bottom there, that's when your production is going to be at the lowest. And generally in the winter months, June, July, most citizens will be producing from solar only about 40% through the average total during the month, that as they would be producing during the summer. And the two little blobs there on the left-hand side again shows fully sunny days on the left in summer, the right in winter. And you can see that the daily output there on the right is less than half what it would be in the summer. So generally, plan on a system which will give you what you need in winter, and you will then have surplus inevitably during the summer. And I've tried to do something here which can help people think through the choices. The thing is, there are no right answers. The performance of a system, the value you get, well, so much depends on the sort of demands you're making on it, how you live your life, and ultimately depends on the weather anyway. So, and it depends obviously on how much solar you can install on your house, plus your budget. But I've just showed that, and on your objectives. There are it seems to me there are three ways we can think of this. First, do you not want to the zero import, which is the picture, basically the picture I showed right at the beginning with those little graphs, using your solar in the evening. If you don't want to import in the evening, you want a big enough battery to store the electricity you're going to use on a winter's evening. So if we look at the average winter consumption there on the left, probably about 70% of that you're going to use during the night. So your battery size probably wants to be about 70% of your average winter consumption, daily consumption. And in terms of the solar, the sort of rough calculation I use, if you make your solar in kilowatts 50% of your average winter consumption, that'll give you a pretty good supply. The second stage, we'll just have a look at some numbers in a moment. Beyond that, you may want to store some more of your surplus daytime solar so that you can export it in the evening at a much better rate than you would get during the day. And that will mean having a bigger battery to store your surplus solar. And then the third one on the right there, if you really want to have the maximum impact and do the best you can for the grid, fill your roof up with solar panels and get the biggest battery you can afford. And let's just see what some numbers are here. Okay, so and this is based on our household. So consumption there, 20 kilowatt hours a day, average June, July, because we're using evening heating. Based on that, I'm saying what solar size? Probably 10 kilowatts. 10 kilowatt system to match that. And below there, a battery of about 14 kilowatt hours, because that'll give me enough to store energy that will cover our nighttime use. Point to make there is even a 10 kilowatt solar system won't give you every day enough energy. And I've done a little analysis on last year based on the months and the weather we were having then. And about 50% of the days, June and July, a 10 kilowatt solar system would have provided 20 kilowatt hours. And in the summer, it'll do it virtually every day. And over the whole year, about 3/4 of the time. So if you wanted to do more than that and you want to store some solar to export in the evening, get a 20 kilowatt hour battery. So you've got there 10 kilowatts of solar and a 20 kilowatt hour battery. And you can stack up that, as we saw in the stackable battery. You might go up to 32 plus kilowatt hours of battery. And just for comparison, that last little installation, that they were installing 32 kilowatt hour battery. They had 13 kilowatts of solar, and they've got a family house with 2 adults, 2 children. And in winter, they were using about 30 plus kilowatt hours a day. So that was a pretty good system. And I think that's just click on.
Yeah, right.
Okay, look, I think this is my last one. How much solar can I fit on my roof? Well, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. Obviously, it depends on how big the roof is. but in particular how much of that roof is north facing. A north facing slope at about 30 degrees is the optimum here in Sydney. That'll give you your maximum output during the year and your best performance in the winter. East and west, and basically you've got to work with what you've got. But east and west is still pretty good. Gives about 85% of the generation throughout the whole year, but slightly less good performance in winter than north facing. Now, some people, you can say there's panels on the south facing slope. I mean, if you're really desperate to max out your roof, you can put it on a south facing slope, but it performs so poorly in winter that, I mean, you get loads in summer, but generally you're going to have surplus solar in summer anyway.
I've got 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Chris, and we hope that detail is really useful for you when you start to talk to installers and when you start to get your quotes, because you can look back on the slides and everything we said is basically in the slides, and you can understand what your installers are talking about. So if it seemed like lots of information, it'll be really useful when you actually get your quotes. You'll be able to understand them and talk to your installer. Okay, I'm going to use the last remaining couple of minutes to give you some stories about how much will you save and how much will it cost, because these are often the primary questions we get. So these are examples of 2 different size systems. They're very common systems. A 6.6 kilowatt system, which, for example, broadly speaking, is great for a 2 to 4 person household, cost you about $6,000 to $9,000 with solar. If you should save you basically between $1,500 and $1,900 a year on your bills. If you add a battery, it'll cost whatever battery you choose. Let's call that $10,000, and it should increase your savings by $500 to $700 a year on top of that. If then a 10 kilowatt system, which is say 3 to 4 plus household, cost you around $10,000 for solar, save you some in the range of $2,000 to $2,900 a year on your bills. If you add a battery, depends what your battery costs, and that battery should be saving you between another $500 and another $1,000. What does all that mean in really simple terms? Your solar system should pay itself back on lower power bills in about 3 to 5 years. Your battery, it depends on lots of different factors, but let's say you get, broadly speaking, you're looking at your battery saving you between another $500 and $1,000 a year. So what does that actually mean in interest rate terms? Your solar panels themselves are giving you about a 15% return on your money, which is absolutely fantastic. What will your battery cost? This slide talks about the different variables. I'm just going to give you the facts. It'll cost you about $600 to $850 per kilowatt hour of storage with your rebate. Depends what size battery you choose. Government gives you 30% off. Will this battery pay for itself over its 10-year plus warranty? On average figures, yes, it will more than pay for itself. Now we've got this discount on average figures. Loads more detail on the Solar Quote website if you like. We have 3 case studies, but we're basically out of time. But I will go through them briefly because people love hearing, okay, well, what have other people done and what does it save them? I'm going to go straight to the one with the battery rebate. So we've got Kate, Mark and their 2 children, Eleanor and Jonathan. They put 13.3 kilowatts of solar on their house, a very large 32 kilowatt hour battery. It costs them $23,000 in total in September 2025, which is about $510 per kilowatt hour. I appreciate that's a lot of detail, but basically for a $23,000 system, they're going to be hopefully saving $2,000 to $3,000 a year on their bills, and will hopefully this will have paid for itself within, say, around 7 years. And remember that the warranties on solar panels are 25 plus years, and so you are getting lower power bills for years and years and years to come. Power prices go up, your savings are even better because you're not buying that power, you're using your own. Now we're going to go to the Willoughby bulk buy.
Thank you so much, team. That was extremely interesting and full of really good information. I just had a quick section here that is only relevant to Willoughby City Council residents. So if you are not from Willoughby City Council, you can go for make yourself a cup of tea. Just a brief note. So as well as cutting greenhouse gas emissions from our own council operations, we also at Willoughby Council are supporting our community to reduce their emissions, and our goal is to achieve net zero by the 2040s. So that means reducing emissions and then offsetting any remaining that cannot be reduced as far as possible. I wanted to share the bulk buy because it's a great opportunity that we're offering to our residents. So it's a solar and battery bulk buy program. And we launched this a number of years ago. We partnered with a trusted local installer after a review process of many different suppliers. We selected one that ticked all of our boxes that we trust. They've got over 14 years experience, and we have reviewed the systems that they offer. So they've got good quality systems. They offer a discount for our residents, and you are eligible for the government rebates as well. So if you flick through the slides, you'll be able to have a look at the different options, but I'll send you a link to all of those. You can have a look in more details. You basically can choose between solar only, battery only if you already have a solar system, or you can choose one of their packages which has solar and battery, which are really good value. So we're hoping that with a transparent, supportive program with a clear pricing and a good customer service, we can encourage more of our residents to sign up or to get solar and battery as well in your home. Don't worry if you don't know which one to get. I know some of those will be similar and now you're familiar with because Chris has gone through all of the options. So you've got the stackable, you've got the non-stackable options. There's plenty of different sizes, different brands. We have a link on the website. You can contact Solar Pro and they can tailor what is exactly what you need, and they'll come to your home and do an assessment and give you personal advice and a quote. So I highly encourage anyone in the Willoughby Council area to make the most of this opportunity to at least get a quote and compare to anything else that you may have gone, and know that this is a sort of an easy solution that has been vetted by your council. Thank you. Yes, that's it for the bulk buy. I won't go into too much details.
Okay, so just thank you for that, Barbara. If you are in Willoughby Council, congratulations. You're very lucky to have a councillor who is so proactive. For those of you who are not, here are just a couple of tips that we'd love to share with you. First of all, do check out your council's website. Many councils are offering rebates for many home electrification projects. And as Barbara was just saying before, please, when you're looking for installers, do go out and make sure you get a couple of quotes. And look for installers who've got a good reputation, lots of good reviews. You may want to talk to your neighbours who might have this, and then work out how you're going to pay for this. Stick click through. As you good reviews. And as you've just seen, Chris has given you a wonderful rundown on the quality of batteries and some brands you might like to consider, as well as the same for solar panels. Now, in terms of paying for this, there's a couple of different ways you might like to pay for this. There might be upfront cash that you've got to pay for these things. You may like to take out a green loan. Many banks are now offering green loans to you, so it's worth asking around. And you could add this to the cost of your mortgage, Or you might like to consider a power purchase agreement and have the system installed for no upfront cost, or take out a personal loan. There's multiple ways of doing this. And another thing to consider is if you are borrowing money to pay for these upgrades to your home, do check with your bank, because you may find that you may actually qualify for a discount on your mortgage because you're upgrading your home.
That concludes our presentation, and as I said, it will be emailed to you. All of the detail we discussed will be on your computer, ready for you to look back on as you like, including with your when you get your quotes. We hope it's been really useful. We really appreciate your time. Luani is going to close for us. You're welcome to leave after that, or you're welcome to stay, and we have Q&A.
Thank you, Felicity, Ursula and Chris. It was a really interesting presentation. I think you've given us all a lot to think about, and thank you to Barbara, who was the main organiser for this webinar. I hope everybody, or we all hope that everybody has enjoyed the presentation and that you can take something new back to think about, and encourage you to just take the next step, whatever that is, wherever you're at. Just take one step more, and hopefully that will lead you to where you would like to most to be. As you know, Barbara will send out the recording and a quick survey. It only takes 2 minutes, so if you can fill that out, it'd be very helpful. And just to check your council websites and see what's on offer. Both Willoughby and Mosman Council offer different programs for sustainability, and you'll see all that information, extra information, on the website. I'll leave those, for those who are staying, the Q&A will start now, and yeah, thank you for coming.